Seth Blaine, and this is Mark. We're father son. We started our own business about 2.5 years ago. We come from a variety of backgrounds. I went through the college route before going into the electrical trade. He worked a number of jobs prior to going into the electrical trade himself, what, 30 years ago or so?
35 years.
35 years ago. So kind of the short and sweet of it is that, you know, becoming an electrician, you go to school for a certain amount of time, depending on if you're union or non-union, either 4 or 5 years. You work full-time for the most part while you're going to school, which means you earn a paycheck while you're doing your schoolwork. And then at the end of that, you take a test. And if you pass the test, you become a journeyman electrician, which means you can work on your own unsupervised and have a career. I mean, as long as you pretty much show up for work and you use a little bit of common sense, you know, you can write your own check. You can have a job for as long as you want. Like was mentioned before, there's a pretty high demand for electricians right now. We have an aging workforce that's about to get out of the field, and we have a pretty decent sized gap until the next generation where we have, you know, my group, and there's not a whole lot in between, and we see kind of a shortage in the group behind mine as well. So electricity is never going away. We always need lights. We always need outlets. We always, and with, you know, electric vehicles and green energy, the demand for electricity is even higher. And it's going to continue that way, is what it appears like. So, you know, it's a pretty, all the trades are important and necessary. You know, I think that the skilled trades is a good avenue because there's some schooling involved. So that means that you have job security. It means someone off the street can't just walk in and take your job. You know, you have to earn it by going to school and making a commitment prior to, you know, prior to having this career. So it's pretty important, and we need people. We need people in the industry.
It's always growing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not really going to follow the slides. I'm just kind of
Just
all over the place. So
talk about who we are.
yeah, so the schooling portion of it, if you go the non-union route, which is the path that both of us took, I can speak to that because I've been through that program. I know a little bit about the union side, but not as in depth. So the non-union side, you go to school for 4 years, 1 night a week for 4 years. You have the summer off. You do have to pay for that schooling, but in comparison to college, it's nothing. I think it's like $500 a term versus college, which is quite a bit more. Like I mentioned before, you work while you go to school. So once you apply to get into the apprenticeship, there's a process you have to go through. And we'll have information up here about both union and non-union contacts. So if you guys are interested in getting applications and going down that process, you can use that information to start the apprenticeship program. So you apply, and once you get accepted, then you start school in the fall. And they do, like I said, 1 night a week. Once you get accepted, there's a list of approved companies, training agents. Thank you. So those are companies like ourselves that have been in business for over a year, and we're registered with the non-union school. And so once you're in the program, then we get a list of these are the people that are now in the program and they need jobs. And so companies will reach out to you, or you can reach out to companies. But it's a pretty seamless process as far as getting hired on. Once you're in that program, there's a big need for apprentices right now, especially. So you find yourself with a job pretty quickly, and then you work for that company. You can move around between companies, gain different experience, because different companies, they work in specific fields. So there's residential, commercial, and industrial are the 3 major components of electrical work. We do a little bit of everything. We do residential, commercial, and industrial, because that's what our background is in, and we have that experience. So that's the kind of work that we go after. But you'll find some shops that only do residential work. So they just go into subdivisions and do new houses. You'll find some shops that just do commercial work, like the building we're in right now, remodels and new construction. So through that 4 years, you may find yourself bouncing around different companies, which is pretty normal, just to gain a variety of experience, not only in the type of work that you're doing, but also who you're working with. As an apprentice, you have to work with a journeyman electrician who's already passed the test. And so you want to gain different skills, different ideas from different people. So that way, when you take your journeyman test and you become a journeyman, you know, there's 10 or 12 different ways to do one task. Not everyone does things the same. Not everyone thinks the same. So, you do that for 4 years, and then, passing your schooling along the way, you get pay raises basically every 6 months. So as you progress through the school, and you pass your previous class, and then you meet the work hour requirements, you have to work a certain number of hours per term in order to get your pay raise, and then you're guaranteed set pay raises, which I think somewhere along here we have, those are some pictures of some different installs we've done, but
There's the wages.
yeah, so, you'll start at, I think it's 50% of the average journeyman wage, and then it goes up from there until you turn out as a journeyman, you take that test. So that's another nice thing, is that you're guaranteed to increase your wages all the way through the program, as long as you pass your classes and you accrue the correct number of work hours.
Can you tell us what the difference between commercial and industrial is? Briefly before you.
Yeah, so commercial work is basically offices, for the most part, grocery stores, office buildings such as this one, restaurants. Industrial are like, plant-based.
Oh.
So like
Manufacturing.
Smurfit down in Newburgh, manufacturing,
Schnitzer Steel,
Snitzer
more
Steel.
manufacturing type
It's like
stuff.
Intel, Gyro, like,
Intel has a combination of industrial and commercial, just by nature, they've got the fabs, so you could consider that industrial.
okay,
The biggest difference is the type of material that we use and the processes that we have to go through. Industrial requires the highest grade of materials. We have to use rigid conduit and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's
More robust,
mhm.
and you may run into some explosion-proof areas, like where there's fumes and fuels and things like that, that you have to take certain precautions to meet the code requirements.
Mhm. And then, so that's the non-union side. The union side is virtually the same. The only difference being, the amount of time that you go to school, really. I think the union program is 5 years, and I believe that you go to school 1 day a week. Instead of going to work for that day, you go to school for that full day. Otherwise, it works pretty much the same. Same
Just
kind of,
takes a little bit longer.
just takes a little bit longer. And then at the end of both of those programs, you have the same license. So you both take the same test. If you pass it, you have a journeyman electrical license. So it doesn't matter which side of the fence that you went to school on.
And then the next step after a journeyman license is the supervisor's license, which is the license that I hold. And that's the highest electrical license in the state. And you have to have that to be able to do work as an electrician. So everybody in our company works underneath my license umbrella. Okay, you have to have that license to pull permits, and you have to do a full electrical permit for every electrical work task you do. And so that's required to have a company. So Phil's getting ready to start studying for that test himself. He's got enough hours as a journeyman now. And so now he's enrolled in a class to help him succeed in that test. And it is not an easy test. So it's not anything you take lightly. This is a career. It's not just a job.
And the other beauty of electrical work is there's a number of different avenues that you can go down within electrical. So we hold a general journeyman license, which means that we can do virtually any electrical work short of utility. So short of being alignment, PGE stuff. But we can do, yes, we can do, low voltage electrical, lighting, all that kind of stuff. But if you want to specify in one specific area, they have low voltage electrical licenses, which isn't as long of a schooling requirement, 2-year program. it limits what you can work on and what you're allowed to do, which also limits your pay. But that's another avenue. And I don't even know how many different variations of that. You could be a fire alarm electrician, you could be a security I mean, there's a number of licenses that you can pursue.
And there's a need in every one of them, for
Exactly.
sure.
Exactly. So I know if you want to go back to the previous slide. So this is the breakdown of the non-union side. This is what your pay scale looks like as soon as you get into the apprenticeship. So when you first start out, you're a first period apprentice. You're making 40% of the journeyman scale, which for this year is $1977 an hour. So those numbers here on the right are the minimum payment that an employer has to pay you. Now, what we find is because there's a lack of workers, there's a it's pretty common for companies to pay over the minimum scale. So whether that be $1 or $2, what have you. So, that's a negotiable wage. That's just the minimum that a company has to pay you when you're whatever period you're in. So pretty nice wages coming straight out of high school if you get in, by the time you turn out, you're making $100,000 a year as potentially the 24-year-old. That's not terrible. And like I said, you'll be forever, you'll have a job forever as long as you are dependable, you show up to work and you do a halfway decent job. You'll learn all the skills you need during your apprenticeship. Whether between the school that teaches you all the theory behind electrical and why it is that we, have ground systems and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of it comes from your hands-on experience working in the field during that apprenticeship, where you're literally working side by side with the journeyman installing things. And that journeyman passes their knowledge on to you as well. Just naturally that's what we talk about because we're doing the work. So by the time you get your journeyman license, you have a really solid understanding of what you do and why you do it.
And I'll add to that you don't ever quit learning either. I'm 64 years old and I learn something new every day in this field. So it's a continuing education process. It never stops. There's always, and the code changes every 3 years. There's a code cycle that changes. Our code book is about 2.5 inches thick. And that's our Bible. We live in it. And so we have to know it and understand it, know how to look things up in the book, to do a correct installation. And then we're also required to have continuing education. So we have 24 hours every 3 years, which really isn't that much when you really think about it, but it's continuing education that we have to do continually.
That's kind of a quick synopsis of the electrical field.
See what else is we have just to hit.
Yeah, no, it's not letting me.
It's not letting you.
Change it.
Well, and at the end too, we can pull up the contact info that you guys can write down for the 2 different apprenticeships. So that way you guys have that information. They'll provide you more information on how to apply, when you can apply, because you have to meet certain requirements in order to get into the program. Oh yeah, right here. So the Area 1 JTC non-union side, and then the IBW, which is the union side. So those are some contacts for if you guys are interested in either apprenticeship. I would suggest if you are seriously interested that you apply to both of them and you see which one you get into. And if you get into both, that's great. You get to make a choice. You get to decide which way you want to pursue. But it is it's funny, we have a shortage, but it's a pretty demanding process. It's not like you can just walk up and get in. There's a whole packet of information you have to supply, and there are a number of people that are applying. And then the school only accepts a certain number of apprentices each year, depending on the demand.
Yeah.
So they don't overflow themselves and have people in the apprenticeship that can't get work, for example. So it's ironic that there's a shortage of electricians, but it's a very competitive process to get into the apprenticeship.
That difference between union and non-union, can you touch a little bit more, like, does that then apply to the type of, like, Epling? You guys are non-union, right?
Yep.
So then how does that impact, like, if you're bidding for jobs? What makes that difference between?
So we all play on the same field.
Yeah.
We bid against union electricians. We
All the
work
time.
alongside union electricians at times. Because a lot of times what you'll find on jobs is that, you know, the lighting and power is given to one contractor, and then low voltage access control or fire alarm is given to another contractor. Very few firms do everything under the sun. So you may have a union and a non-union electrician on the same job. And really the biggest difference is that the union workers have guaranteed wages and benefits because they've negotiated those through their union. And then the non-union side is per employer. So, you know, we offer our employees certain benefits and wages to stay competitive within the market and do right by our guys. But we get to dictate that. It's not something that's dictated by an organization of people, which is the union. As far as the schooling goes, I think the union probably has a better education program because they have more money to dump into it. So you go to school for a full day as opposed to 4 hours at the end of a workday. So, you know, you're subject to the teachers that you have available to you at the non-union school, which in my experience, they were great. They're all union or industry leaders. They're all owners of businesses or inspectors, and they have a really good knowledge of not only electrical, but code and, you know, so, but that's kind of the biggest difference. But again, at the end of the apprenticeship, you have the same license. So you can go to school for 5 years or 4 years and you have the same license. That's why I think it's a good idea to apply to both, because you may get into one and not the other. They may be hiring more on one side versus the other. So you just want to maximize your opportunity.
Can you talk about a little bit like how to build up like that resume? Cause I know like you guys talked about that kind of
Yes.
point system or what that looks
Yeah.
like to get accepted into the program.
Yeah, so when you apply, you have a whole packet of information you have to fill out and supply. And they give you points for everything that you provide them. So whether that's work experience, I know one section is like you get 10 letters of recommendation that you can supply, and that's 10 points. You get 1 point per letter. So those are 3 points that you can get. But military experience, work experience, education, all those things, they rank you once you submit that. They give you a point, 100 points. And then they put everyone on the board, and based on your points that you earn, they take the top 20. And then once they're done with that 20, they move down to the next 10 until they've met their quota of how many apprentices they want to take on for that year. So anything that you can do to get yourself more points obviously gives you a better opportunity. So if you're looking for work experience, we have a number of local supply houses. North Coast Electric, Platte Electric are two that are located here in Hillsborough, not far from here. And I know that they can, they're good resources for, they need people to be drivers. They need people to work in the warehouse. And through that, you gain some experience working with the materials that electricians work with all the time. You get an understanding of what EMT is, what Romex is. And that gives you an advantage once you're in the program, because you already know what those materials are. But it also gives you the work experience that gets you bonus points on your application for the apprenticeship. Other shops, bigger shops, they also need what we call shop hands. So same thing, they work in the shop of the electrical company, and they may, sort materials. They may run to the parts house and get materials for the field electricians. They may make deliveries, kind of getting experience and an understanding of what we do and how we do it without actually installing electrical. So those things will get you experience. So some bigger shops around here like Garner Electric, some of the big union shops, OVG, those are all good starting places if you guys are looking for some work experience and a little bit of insight into the field.
Do you guys have opportunities for students who've graduated from high school to do that entry level work, or?
We're not big enough yet.
Big enough yet?
We don't, there's only 8 of us, including ourselves. So we're a pretty small shop. We don't have an actual shop, so we don't have a need for shop games necessarily. But something else is if you have a contact, that does electrical as an electrical company, where we are included in that. A lot of times people will offer up job shadow opportunities. So, you can come do a ride along with us for a day. We can go drive around to some job sites, and you can get your eyes on, a job site we may be working on, and you can kind of see the process of what's happening.
Would you get points on the thing that you sent in?
You know, for job shadows and that kind of thing, I don't believe you do get points. I'm not 100% sure. It would be a good question to ask both of the schools.
And
But
it's just more of an exposure thing.
yeah, you can kind of physically see with your own eyes what it is, you know, what a job site looks like.
But I think it's worth it to, like, on your resume, you know, you can have a section where you can put job shadowed and companies that you read, because it shows your intent,
Yeah,
like, you're
absolutely.
really interested in it.
Well, and that's a good step into, you know, you can ask those people for a letter of recommendation then. They've spent a day with you, they know you're interested. And letters of recommendation from industry leaders, I would imagine hold more weight with the schooling board than like your friend, you know, or some stranger, you know.
I think you have a relative that could give you a letter of recommendation, right? Yeah. I recognize his last name.
Yeah. And just like within your own company, tell us like what you guys, if you specialize, you said you were, or were you general, and what does it
We
look
do
like?
We do everything. We,
What does a day in the life look like?
so for one of our electricians, they may be crawling in an attic space, changing out a bathroom exhaust fan 1 hour. The next hour, they may be digging a ditch between a house and a shop that somebody just put up that needs power. And running conduit in the ditch and installing wiring inside that shop. The next thing you may be working at, we do work at some pretty cool places. We work up at the zoo quite a bit, making modifications to the different displays there. We did one where we did the beaver den. So the beaver, they built a new den for the beavers. And we had to do the electrical wiring for it and a heated mat and lighting and camera stuff. We do work like at Leica. That's the stop animation company here in Hillsborough. We do work there. It's pretty cool stuff there. Making modifications to lighting.
Adding power where they need it. That's the thing, is that every day is so different.
You know,
And from, you know, within that day, you can do a number of different jobs too.
yeah, just depends on the task, how long it's gonna take to do that task. We travel a little bit sometimes too. We go down to Salem. We do work at the Department of Administrative Services. So we do work in the state buildings. We do work in the public health lab up here in Hillsborough, at the DEQ lab. We've done work over in Tillamook at the propane delivery plant, bulk delivery plant. That's some industrial stuff there. So it's just a matter of, you know, different shops have different contacts and different associations with different general contractors. And so, we've got a small general contractor. We do a lot of high-end, residential remodel stuff. So we do generators. We install generators on houses.
EV chargers.
Yeah, electric vehicle charging stations are going rampant.
Yeah, so a number, if it's electrical, there's a chance that we work on it.
Yeah, yeah.
What would you say are some good skill sets that are needed in
Mechanically minded,
mechanically minded?
that's huge. You really need to be able to and want to build things. And see the satisfaction of, I built that. You know?
And an understanding of how things work and why they work that way. So, that goes a long ways with the mechanical. I would say that two most important skills are, you're dependable, you're reliable, and you have a willingness to learn. Through the apprenticeship, you'll learn, if you want to, you will learn everything that you need to know to be successful as an electrician, but it also, you know, life skills too. But the two most important things are that you're dependable and you show up when you say you're gonna show up on time or early, like you guys were today. And then you have an open mind about learning something new, because you're gonna walk into a world you have no understanding of, and you just kind of have to trust that you're gonna you get through the process, you will learn everything you need to know. But you have to be open to that learning, open to criticism when you do something wrong, because you will do stuff wrong. I've done stuff wrong. I continue to do stuff wrong because it's a never ending learning curve, right? So you just kind of have to be comfortable with not knowing for a little while, but just trusting that you're going to get there.
A mechanic, I've seen over the years, a mechanical aptitude really helps.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to have good dexterity, you know, you're twisting wire nuts all day long, you know.
What's the workload difference between owning a company and just working for a company?
That's a good question.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
We go from working for a company, the expectation is an 8-hour workday, 5 days a week, generally. There are
Working for the company?
working for a company.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's generally the expectation. Now, construction is a little bit feast or famine, so there's times where work is slow and you may have, 20 hours a week. And there's times where there's too much work and not enough people, and so you may be working 60 hours a week. It kind of fluctuates between there, but I would say the expectation is a 40-hour work week.
Okay.
Owning a company,
Mhm.
we easily put in 12 to 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, sometimes 7. So, owning a company, you get to make it what you want and you get out of it what you put in. So if you only want to work 8 hours a day, do a 40-hour work week, you could do that and you could survive. You could do it.
The pitfall of that is sometimes if you don't put the time in, sometimes you may not have the work lined up for your crew the next few days, you know.
And there's a variety of sizes of shops too. There's companies that have 100 electricians, and there's companies where the owner is the only electrician and everything in between. So it really depends on what you want to do. And who you are as a person, I would say. Like if you want to own a company, you have to have the right mindset and you have to be willing to put in the work. You obviously have to be willing to put in the work at working for somebody as well, but it's a different ballgame.
And we're a true family-run operation.
Yeah.
You know, Bill's my son and his wife runs the office. So we're pretty small.
Do you want to own a business? Or do you want to get your business to do or going into the trade?
That's a good question. I have a minor in business and I have some background in that through my educational background. And I think it definitely helps. It's helped with how we navigate how to own a business because there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. There's a lot of requirements, insurance, licensing, taxes. There's just the organization, how you communicate with your employees, what kind of system are you going to put in place so that everyone is on the same page. So having some business experience or education definitely helps to understand some basic business terms and ideas. But you don't have to have that. There's certainly shops that, guys that are electricians that they're like, I want to own my own shop and they do it and they have no business experience at all. So you can do it either way. I would say if you're looking at any kind of higher education, this is like what you want to do. That would be a good avenue if owning your own company is something you foresee in the future.
From the side view, I think it's been a huge benefit myself for him to have that education. He's got a 4-year degree in psychology and a second in business. And so those two things have really helped us succeed. Yeah, and I don't have any formal education other than just my electrical apprenticeship and the continuing education. So coming from that point of view, I would say it's been a huge benefit for owning your own business to have that in your pocket.
But that's something you could also pursue simultaneous to being an electrician. You could go get an associate's in business or go take some night classes,
Yep.
PCC or something. So that's,
Yeah, because you do get college credits for your apprenticeship too.
correct. Yeah, when you're done with the apprenticeship, I think you're like, it's like 2 or 4 classes short of an associate's degree.
Yeah.
With the licensing, so that allows you to work in Oregon. So if you wanted to move to
Across the river?
across the river, is there different licensing?
Yes, there is
So Washington's a reciprocal state right now.
for journeyman.
For apprentices too, they have
Apprentices, yeah.
reciprocal apprenticeships. So what that means is that you just, when you're in the apprenticeship for Oregon, you let them know you want to also get your Washington license. You pay the extra fee for your Washington license, and then you can, I believe the way it is now, this changed since I've been through the apprenticeship, but I believe when you take your test for Oregon, those hours you've accrued also qualify you to take your test in Washington. It's a different test. They have a little bit different rules. Each state has their own specialty codes in the way that they interpret the National Electrical Code, which is the NEC. That's the book that we live by. And so there's some nuances to working in Washington and things that they require that Oregon doesn't, and vice versa. But they are separate licenses. So you have to take a test for each state.
Good questions.
Good question.
Anybody else have any questions? At the moment? No? Okay, cool. If you guys think of stuff, you can always ask. Well,
Any online?
yes, the.
And we'll be here afterwards too. If you guys think of anything, we're welcome to chat afterwards.
What, before we move, what would you say what do you like the most about your job? And what do you like least about both of you?
My favorite part about being an electrician is that every day is something different. Like even before owning our own company, when I worked for electrical contractors, every job was different. Every day was a new experience. I wasn't stuck behind a desk every day staring at a computer screen. I get to meet all kinds of people, which is good and bad. But it's, every day is different. So I would say I'm never bored. And it keeps me engaged. The thing I like least about what I do, about being an electrician, is crawl spaces and attics, because I'm a large person and they're generally small spaces and they're dirty and itchy, and I'm just not a fan. So, yeah.
I would imagine that having some of the psychology degree comes handy in communicating with people and different personalities and
We have no idea.
conflict and,
Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
yeah.
Being able to navigate those conversations has been the most beneficial part of my degree. I use it every day.
Me, I would approach it one way and I just hand him the email and say, did you wordsmith this? And clean it up a little bit. And it goes very well.
Yeah. So best part and least part for you,
Well,
be like.
at the stage of my career, best part is working with my son. I can't tell you how gratifying that is. It's huge to me. And to build a legacy, for him and his children. I'm a long time, I was born here in Hillsborough, raised here in Hillsborough, my name means a lot here to me and my family. And so that's the best thing about my job, to be able to build that. It's been a great career. I'm at the end of my career. Another year or two, I'll step down. I won't step away. I've got too much experience not to pass along to everybody else. And to mentor everybody and help them out where I can, and I've got, my phone is so full of contacts, I don't want to lose that. And, I can say that I've never been out of work in this industry. I didn't start until I was 29 years old. Didn't really know this was my path. It fell in my lap, just by chance. And, yeah, not having to worry about having a job to me was important. And you can trust in that. The electrical field, if you're a good employee, you'll never be out of work, but you do have to be a good employee. That's very important. Worst part of the job, oh man. Some of the late nights working on estimates now. And then, like Phil says, crawl spaces. Attics, I don't mind too much as long as it's not in the heat of the summer. But yeah, crawl spaces, sometimes you might run across a raccoon or a cat or something like that in there. It's like, okay, who's gonna win this?
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Some interesting things.
Yeah, interesting things in crawl spaces. People don't go there, so they don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Well, thank you guys so much.
And last question, well, not
I have
last
one
question,
question.
okay.
It's kind of to pick up off of her question, what are some downsides of running a business?
The personal liability, so it starts and stops with you. And so we have employees, we're responsible for making sure that they have work. We're responsible that they have a paycheck, that they can pay their bills and feed their families. So we have a responsibility to our employees, we have a responsibility to ourselves to represent correctly, to make a good name for ourselves and have a good reputation. So that's a lot of pressure. And then you're competing against, I don't know how many other electrical companies on every single job. We do a lot of public work stuff, which is open to the public to bid. So, we compete against a dozen other electrical contractors on almost every project that we put a bid together on. So
Very competitive.
there's a lot of pressure there. I love that, but it's also, it's a lot of pressure when you don't win those bids, or if you do win those bids and then you have to figure out how you're gonna make it work and you're gonna man it up. And then the long hours too. So that, there's only so many hours in the day, and if you're spending 16 of those working, that's less time you get to spend with your family or friends or doing things that you would rather be doing.
I was gonna say, there's a challenge in the personal life balance, right? There's a challenge in that. And you have to really pay attention to that. So you have to take the time for family. Which is the nice thing about working together.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Oh, there is another thing. There's a liability thing too. So,
Yeah.
electrical, of course, is very dangerous. And so there's a huge liability responsibility. There are things that happen that you don't do on purpose with an install that could cause a bad outcome, but you're still liable. And so, there are certain things that could happen that I could actually go to jail for.
Yeah.
And it has happened.
If someone gets hurt on a job site, whether that's our employees or, a customer, if an install is done incorrectly and someone gets hurt, serious or otherwise,
We're
as
liable.
the installers, we're liable for that.
So
The owner of the company is liable for that. As the installer yourself, you are liable, but really the responsibility passes up to whoever the owner of the company is.
Yeah.
And that supervisor's license that's on record. So it's a very serious career as well. That's the other, it's great, it's fun. We get to do all kinds of cool stuff, but it's very serious. People have died from electrical accidents and been seriously hurt. And that's the reason why our code book's so thick. And we have so many standards and policies in place, both within our own company, but as an industry, is because it is a very serious and can be a very harmful thing if it's not done correctly or if an accident happens. So it's just something to consider.
All right.
Great, well, thank you guys. This is
Welcome.
awesome. Let's stop sharing.
Oh, yeah. Ruby. You guys are next.
Oh, okay. My name is Stephanie. I'm with Ruby Heating and Cooling. Let's see, where do I start? So my husband started Ruby Heating and Cooling 5 years ago. Before that, he worked with different HVAC companies for 15 years. He got tired of working with others who didn't take quality in their work, where they're just for a paycheck, maybe, so he decided to start his own company. Let's see. And actually, let me also say, I have a 22-year-old son. He also went to Glencoe, and he was a little up in the air about what to do. He started with an electrician apprenticeship, then he went to concrete, and now he's doing framing for another company. So I would just suggest that you guys really do some research on whatever you guys are looking to do, and like they said, maybe shadow for a day to really get a feel, because sometimes what's on paper, it might not just be a good fit. So There is a construction class at Glencoe that's really good.
I'm in it right now.
Okay, that teacher's amazing, yeah. So,
Can you give us an overview of the HVAC industry?
yeah, so, HVAC is heating, ventilation, air conditioning. So we do furnaces and air conditioners. We do, right now, most of our big projects are new houses. So all these new housing developments that you see, we're going in there and it's 3 steps for us. Rough in, post and beam, and then trim. So we're there at 3 different parts of the job. In between that, there's other subcontractors coming in, like electricians, sheet rockers, framers, everybody. There's also commercial. We do light commercial, but that's like a whole nother venue. So, I guess a day in the life, okay, you don't need a license to start an HVAC. Normally you start with being a helper. That's, in our company, that's how you start. You come in as a helper, and you are assigned to an installer. Our installers are NATE certified, which is a certification you get, regarding HVAC. So that kind of covers like all the regulations, everything that you need to know about HVAC, top of the line stuff. There's also an EPA certification that is only for air conditioners. Right now, things are really changing. They're pushing towards a lot of energy efficient. So we also work with PGE and Energy Trust to kind of, there's a lot of different programs. So, you start as a helper and you're there with your installer, learning the trade. You're gonna do a lot of the dirty work, going in the crawl spaces. You learn to do flex up in the ceiling. And you just kind of, learn the trade. After that, you can move. HVAC really is depending on how much you want to move forward, how fast, how much you want to learn. I have guys who only want to work in new residential, and that I think it would probably take you a good year to learn everything and be able to do new builds on your own. And then I have other guys who want to branch out to service techs, and so they're the ones that when your air conditioning stops working, they go out there, they diagnose the problem, and then they fix it. A day in the life of one of our installers. You have your calendar, so you have several jobs during the day. You may have a furnace and AC install in the morning, and then from there, maybe you go and do just the AC install. Let's see what else. I don't know what else.
So there isn't a formal training apprenticeship program to go through? Do you need?
Correct. So there,
No license requirements?
yeah, so there's no licensing requirements to start, but there is training that you can do as you go. So the more certifications you have, basically the more you can ask your employer for. I had a guy just come in and he asked for a good amount of money, and he really was worth that because he did go above and beyond to get those certifications on his own. Also, he came from California, so that's a whole different, they probably need a lot more requirements than us. Let's see here. Sorry, I don't. What else? I mean, yeah, I feel like for HVAC, a lot of it is a hands-on experience. You either like it or you don't. It's a really hard trade. You're out there. Our busy season is the winter, when it's snowing, when it's cold, that's when, furnaces are going out. And then again in the summer. So our guys are out there in 90 degree weather. They're out there all day long.
How do you guys stay, around codes, keeping up to date with requirements, things like that? Like, what does that look like?
So, we send our guys to trainings, to different trainings. Right now, we also just got this pretty cool program where you use your, I'm sorry, guys, what is that? Little Google
Of VR?
VR. And so you're actively, doing diagnostics and repairing things. So they seem to like that. It's kind of like a video game. The EPA test is 25 questions. You only need to pass with 18 right, but that test is very, very hard. So you do need to have hands-on experience and a lot of training and a lot of studying to pass that test. It probably took my guys like 1 to 2 times to pass that test.
Is that a closed book test?
It's closed book test, yeah.
That makes it hard.
Yeah, so you have your notes while you're studying and stuff, but it's, yeah, you don't get any notes when you're taking the test. What else? A lot, so right now, the state of Oregon is changing a lot of their codes. I believe in 2025, so there's gonna be a lot of changes. So right now, just by training, we're just training and getting a lot of our information from PGE. We're working with them closely to make sure we're, selling the right units and installing the right units. A lot of our training also comes from the supply houses. So we have 2 big supply houses that we use, Gensco here in Hillsborough and Arepco in Tualatin. And they do different trainings on mini split systems, heat pumps, air conditioning and furnaces. So we do send our guys out there. Usually it's when times are slow. Right now it's starting to pick up. It's gonna be the busy season, so, yeah. A work day is usually probably about 9 to 10 hours. And a lot of overtime. But again, it's a very physical job, so. So yeah, I think it takes a committed person to be out there.
What do you see being the industry trends, you know, having grown up in Oregon for so long, like our summers were pretty mild and it was very few homes that had air conditioning. But now as weather has changed and we have warmer summers, like that difference between, they used to call them swamp coolers. I don't know if they still go by that name, but like that what's the work that you do and maybe helping clients understand, like, they want AC, air conditioning, or do they go with like a cooler? How does?
So the
I'm curious
HVAC technology, is so amazing. They sell, so there's different kinds of units that you can get. A lot of like houses that have add-ons, you can install a mini split system, and that's a smaller system. It works as a heating and air conditioning. And I mean, that works for certain spaces, home offices and stuff. I feel like during COVID, that's when a lot of people started working from home and stuff. So they started really looking at their HVAC systems. That also has to do a lot with like air quality and stuff. So if you have a lot of pets, kids, if you're a smoker, all that goes into that. What else?
How often do HVAC systems like need to be changed in a home?
So 23 to 25 years is a lifespan of the HVAC system. We also do maintenances, obviously. So you are supposed to be maintaining your HVAC system just like you take your car for an oil change. We recommend every 3 to 6 months. Most people in Oregon do not do that. Usually we get to a diagnostic and the problem could be as simple as the filter is really, really dirty. It hasn't been changed in 2 to 3 years. So yeah.
When's the best time to have your AC
Maintenance.
maintained so that it's not going out in the middle of summer?
So right before fall and during the spring.
I just don't mind.
Yeah, we just learned the hard way that the filter's supposed to be changed.
Yeah.
Or landlord was like, oh, it's supposed to be changed every like 6 months, you guys should do that. Oh, we haven't changed that since we've been in this house.
We had one, remember a couple of years ago when it was like 120 degrees or something like that? That day, our air conditioner went out. And I'm like, why? Well, all of these days, like, how is it that it knows when it's like the hottest?
The technology is, that they're coming out with it's really good though. Like now you have systems that are very quiet. So you really don't hear anything. Some of the older systems are really loud. A lot of them are like energy saving. You're saving so much money by installing a new system and keeping an older system. So yeah,
Is there much overlap in the work that you do, like with the electricians? Like, do you have to know what the power load that home, if it's an older home, can handle, or modifications, like?
yeah. So we don't touch anything electrical. We basically sort of like build the system and then we wait for the electrician to come in and then we go back and turn the system on. So when the estimator goes out to do the estimate, they already know what they're looking for in regards to what kind of system, the square footage of the house. They take all that into account, what the client's really looking for, like, what's their most comfortable temperature? Are they gonna crank that AC up six months out of the year or not? So yeah, we work closely with, electricians.
Well, I found a program on PCC. I want to share my screenshot with you guys for HVAC and what they offer. If this is like something that you guys are interested in seeing. So PCC offers their HVAC/R installation career pathway certificate. And I'll scroll down so you guys can see. So the locations, there's Swan Island, and this is the skills that you learn through the program. And it's about, I think it said, I looked, it's like $128 per credit, which is really good. And so that's always something, and it's a year-long program, so that shows right there what the title of each course is. So it's a total of 14 credits. You can kind of do the math to see what that is. And part of that is like electrical classes as well. So that's always like a good step to kind of get into that direction of like getting certificates. If you don't get accepted into electrician school right away, having that education, those certificates are going to benefit you in
Points.
in those points as well. So any certificates that, you know, PCC or I think it's a Clackamas Community College, Mount Hood Community College, any things that they offer there are going to benefit you guys. So it says less than a year program too, to get that.
What are the pay ranges that you're seeing in HVAC?
So our company starts out helpers usually anywhere from $18 to $19, starting. And then we do a 3-month review. We kind of see where you're at. By that time, you can kind of tell if someone's really interested and give it their all. And then from there, installers right now are making anywhere from $36 to $42. And that's what I like my basic installers with maybe just their NATE certification. So, and I know it only goes up to there. We're a smaller company. We have 12 employees, but I mean, there's big HVAC companies and I see their ads and, you know, they can offer a lot more than me. So, I think it's just about finding a good fit with the company, seeing what they can offer you.
Do you guys offer any type of like internship or job shadow for students to kind of see what that's like and see if that's like a trade they're interested in pursuing?
So last summer we did offer someone for our shop to kind of take orders, get them ready for the delivery driver who then would take them down to the job sites. It's always an option, I think. Yeah, come talk to us. Shoot us an email or a phone call, and definitely we would be open to shadowing. It's a good trade. It's always in demand as well. Yeah, I think commercial is a whole nother deal. right now we're working on Sunrise Church in Hillsborough, and a job that we thought would take a month, it has turned into 3 months. But it's definitely a learning experience, and the guys kind of know, oh yeah, I'm interested in this, I'm gonna kind of dig in a little deeper to this, and some of them are like, no, I don't wanna touch that, I just wanna work on residential.
What would you say are some good skills?
Being dependable. The schedule is made, days before, so it's kind of mapped out, and if you take a piece out of there, someone calls in sick or just calls out, that kind of messes with the whole schedule. So being dependable, problem solving. We like for our installers and technicians to kind of see if they can solve the problem on their own, before right away they're calling, their supervisor, for the answer. And I would say organization. Each installer has their own van, so knowing what supplies you have in there, knowing when you're running low, coordinating that with the office to make sure that your van is, stocked for each job that you're going to.
What are some extra certificates you get that would benefit you while going into HVAC?
There's a lot of like fresh air certifications. There are so many. PCC offers, yeah, if you just go down their list, there's also a school in Portland, Oregon Trade School. Do you guys know about that? No? There's a school in Portland that specializes in trades. And you can take like just certification classes there, so you don't have to enroll full time. I have gone and taken classes just so I can like learn about HVAC. Yeah. I think, getting, your EPA would be the most important, because then you go in there with all the knowledge on the incoming codes for air conditioners.
How have like the wildfires where we've had such intense smoke, like how has you seen that impact the industry?
So I think before we did a lot in these past few years, I think we started thinking more about clean air, fresh air. So now a lot of the HVAC units, are more aimed at that. Each unit has a fresh air intake, and that's kind of its own little, section that's a certification that I was talking about. Installing that is like a separate part. It's like a little unit basically. So you can kind of, so that is what basically cleans the air in the whole HVAC system.
Cool. Do you guys have any more questions?
Any questions from the
No.
online? All right.
Cool. Well, thank you, Stephanie.
How busy were you after the ice storm and people's heating going out?
So it's definitely, like they were saying, there's not a lot of, people going into the trades, I feel like, right now. I know that there was a big push towards college, and that's just not a good fit for everyone. But we're definitely always looking for a lot of, I think this goes for all trades. They kind of, if they're not getting what they need from one company, they're gonna move to another until they find their right fit. So we're always looking for, even if our team, like right now, we got a good team, but we're always looking for new individuals who can add to that team, who can share their knowledge. Like they also said, everyone works differently. Each one of my installers trains a totally different way. So maybe this guy is not a good fit for you, so we're gonna move you over here, or and you're gonna learn a different way. Sometimes some helpers learn faster by hands-on, and some are like more like, tell me what to do, show me what to do. So It's definitely a field that is, in need of people. Right now, what we're doing is going from our helpers and just training them up because we're not finding the installers, who already, you know, are good, who already know the trade. So we're just training up from helpers and up.
What I always seen is the furnace and the AC go out at the most inconvenient times.
Yeah, oh, sorry, in regards to that, sometimes we have to turn away business because I just don't have guys to send out. During the snowstorm, 3 of our vans got stuck on the freeway. And they were headed towards jobs, all 3 of them, so those people were kind of out of luck, unfortunately. So, yeah.
Cool, well, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Lauren, and I have your presentation ready to go. So I think
PGE, you're up.
PGE, I think I misunderstood the assignment a little bit, but bear with me. We're gonna start with a little bit about PGE and our background, because at the heart of it all, we are very much a mission-driven organization. And our mission is to provide our customers with safe, secure, reliable, affordable, and cleaner energy. And we're gonna talk a little bit about some of our history, because we have a lot of firsts that you might not know about. I'm going to share a little bit about what we're currently doing and some of the milestones over the last 20 or so years. And then we'll talk more about the careers and kind of go from there. But I always start these presentations just saying that sometimes it's hard to talk about what you can do at PGE because we do so many things. We have a helicopter pilot, we have drone pilots, we have biologists, we have fish technicians, we have park attendants, data scientists, nurses, recruiters, we're the best, journeyman linemen, mechanics, carpenters. So there's a lot of different things we can be at PGE.
I have that, you're just gonna have to tell me when.
Okay, go. And we are transforming the energy future. Whether or not you know it, in Portland, Oregon, PGE is at the absolute forefront of innovation in renewable energy space. And we're also at the top of customer service scores in the nation as well, top 5%. We enjoy a really positive relationship with the communities that we serve, and that's not an accident, right? We really do care about it because we have such a responsibility, just like these people on the panel, to restore power, to restore clean air and heat, and these are critical things to us. Right. You can go next. So I'm going to start talking about a little bit about our history and some of the cool stuff that we have accomplished. So if you didn't know it, we started back in 1888. And electric power was still really a novelty. But we changed that and continue to light new pathways in our industry. And so today we're going to look at some of those milestones. We made history with the first long distance transmission of direct current energy in 1889. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. 14 miles from Willamette Falls, which is right in the Oregon City, Westland area. You've seen that site. That was the first site, and it was transmitted from there 14 miles to the city of Portland. Yeah. And you're gonna have to click again to, there we go. So another first is that we had the first building in downtown Portland to have permanent exterior lighting in 1909, and that building is still there. It's on the corner of 7th and Alder. And that PGE sign is a replica of the sign that's outside of that building. And that sits in our Journeyman Lineman Training Center in Sherwood.
Did Ramsey Science make that sign for you?
I have no idea. No. But it's cool, isn't it?
It is very cool.
I know. I don't know. Like, I want one.
I know.
Some other historical moments. We were the first utility in the nation to have two-way radios in line vehicles. That happened in 1940. Can we imagine today having to go out on a job and not having our cell phones, but we were the first with two-way radios. We were the first to install residential underground wiring, and that's in our West Hills location, section of Portland back in 1955. And we were the first and only nuclear utility in Oregon. And we voluntarily decommissioned for both economic and structural issues. We closed it down in 1992. And Trojan was connected to the power grid in 1975, so it had a long run. I don't know, I think Trojan was way before any of your time, but, and the site's still there, though the, whatever, I don't know what that's called. I don't know what that shape, that building is called, but it was
Is it the
anyway.
reactor? That,
I'm not sure.
yeah.
But we still have people there maintaining the site, obviously, because it was a nuclear site.
I was there watching the day that they took it down. It was
Oh,
cool.
wow, yeah, so you were there and you saw that.
Mhm.
That was it. And this is just sort of a timeline of what we've done, some of the milestones that we have. Really in the late 90s, we started the clean energy shift. Your families, your parents might have noticed more of our people out in the community talking about renewable energy and switching to the programs. We started to incorporate wind and solar projects with our small scale battery storage. So these are just some of them. Our first wind farm begins operation in Bigelow Canyon in 2007. Salem Smart Power Center, the microgrid project opens in 2013. We have another wind farm in 2014 that opened in Tucannon River. Where's the other one? Okay, so, in 2016, we opened a public, electric vehicle charging stations in downtown Portland. So we're at the World Trade Center, and you'll notice that there's a line of charging stations right outside of our building. That's pretty cool. 2019 is when we launched our smart grid test beds. So if you're not familiar with what a smart grid is, we had 3 test beds across the metro area. And if you lived in one of these smart grid communities and signed up for the program, you would start getting notifications when we came up on peak times so that you can make decisions about how much energy you're using in your household. 2020, another commitment met to transition to renewable energy by closing Boardman. Boardman was our last PGE-owned coal generation site. And we opened Wheat Ridge, which is the first in-nation large-scale wind, solar, and battery facility operations. It's very cool. So why is smart grid so important, and why is storage? Why is storing renewable energy in batteries? Why is that so important?
I don't know.
It's so important because unfortunately, non-renewable energy sources like coal are much more reliable than renewable, right? It's not always sunny, it's not always windy here. And so we have to come up with ways to store the renewable energy that we're creating. And we're just in general trying to think of different ways of, of utilizing energy, right? Like, for example, we have customers that have solar panels and we are hooking them up to a smart meter, and their meters moving both ways. So if you go outside your house and you don't have solar panels, your meter's running, it's just going, right? But if you have solar panels and you sign up for the program, we give you credit to utilize the power that you're creating. Okay. Yeah.
So since Portland General is focused, innovating like power generation is I imagine more so than the other careers that have been talked about so far. This one has a bit more of like a researching side to it, more of a like requirement of, understanding like nitty gritty physics as opposed to like slightly more abstract.
Not at all, not at all, no. We have both sides, right? We have the business side where we have, people like myself working in an HR department. We have our IT departments, computer science type of things. But a good portion of our workforce are represented. So we're the union side. So non-union, and then we're union. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. and talk about who we are. Okay. So this is just a few things to know about us at a glance. With the largest electric utility in the states that have, we serve about 2 million people who live and work in the Portland metro area. We go out as far west as Tillamook Forest, almost out to the mountain in the east, and as far south as Salem. We have 75% of our commercial and industrial activity occurs within our service territory. And we are committed to serving all of our customers in a fair way. And so that's something that we're really striving for today. But I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of some of the locations where you can see where we have generation sites as well. Okay. And why do we do all of this? Well, Oregon is our home, right? Just like you. $1 million awarded to our Central Oregon partners in 2021 for fish habitat restoration. Fish habitat restoration is really big for us because we rely on hydro power for a lot of our portfolio, and we have a responsibility to maintain the environment around there. That's why we have archaeologists and biologists and all of that on staff, so they can help us maintain that. Excuse me. We provide family wage jobs across the state. We have just under 3,000 employees, both represented and non-represented. And the median income for an employee in PGE was around 109,000 in 2021, sorry. Okay. And we have a focus on customers. So why am I sharing a lot of this history and all of these things? Well, I was talking about this a little bit earlier, but we really do take our mission very seriously. We understand the responsibility that we have to our customers, and we want to help our customers when they have trouble paying their bill. We want to help customers to keep power on. We have customers that live in homes that they have machines that help them keep them alive, right? They can't have an outage. So we're number one in the renewable energy space in our renewable energy program in the nation, top quartile of customer satisfaction, system reliability. We really do enjoy reliable power here, and a trusted business partner and environmental champion. Yay. Okay. Now we're going to talk about some of the different parts of PGE. The different career pathways, and utility operations is one that we're going to talk about a lot coming up here. That's where most of our represented employees are, and it's the biggest part of our company. But these are just some of the different groups: public affairs and policy, human resources, finance, general counsel, so legal, IT, resource strategy, customer solutions, energy delivery, and utility operations. Okay. So if you're preparing for a career at PGE, just keep a few things in mind. Education, we do have some minimums. High school diploma or GED is required for all of our jobs. We do have some undergraduate degree or math requirements. Math definitely for our journeyman linemen, journeyman wiremen, journeyman metermen. Algebra is a forever skill that you have to really, you have to have it. Yeah, and like the people from Epling were saying, you're constantly learning, no matter which way you go. But think about, different training, job shadow, developing your technical skills, experience. Think about if you're, even if you're not in your potential trade, are you working in a job where you're developing your customer service skills? Because you have to have customer service skills when you're in people's homes, right? On their property, have to develop those relationships. All of that is really important as you're applying for positions. Okay. And again, I wanted to talk about sort of that education. I told you, we do a lot. So it's really hard to talk about everything you could do at PGE, right? 792 different job titles. And these are just some of the different types of positions that you have.
How are carpenters used within PG? I would not have thought of that. Who would have thought carpenters would be, and you could be a carpenter with PGE?
Well, I'll tell you, we have a lot of different facilities and those different buildings have different needs. Because we have presence in all of our regions, all of our, service territory. So we need carpenters, but we also, in all of our yards, we need mechanics, garage mechanics. Journeyman garage mechanics make today $51.28.
And that's managing all of your fleet vehicles?
Yeah, so we have,
Yeah.
well, so think about it. So if we have a yard in Beaverton, we have a yard in Hillsborough, we have a yard in Sheridan, we have one in Wilsonville. And these yards have to respond to whatever happens, right? So we keep our fleet vehicles in the yards and we have to have people maintain those vehicles in those yards. We also have little gas stations in the yards. So we have to be able to deploy our crews, no matter what. Whether we, just like Stephanie was saying, her people were out in this last storm, so are we. I think we had to replace over 350 poles in that last ice storm. Yeah, it was.
That one was pretty bad.
Pretty bad. So this is just just an example. There's many more. But the skilled trades here at the bottom, you can see journeyman, lineman, meterman. So journeyman metermen are the people out maintaining, the meters, smart meters or what. Wiremen are, linemen and wiremen are related, but they're different. So journeyman linemen are the ones that are climbing the poles. And the journeyman wiremen are, like they're working in our substations. They're, at the other end of the distribution of electrical energy, if you will. Today, journeyman linemen make $62.48 an hour. And well, actually, journeyman linemen, wiremen, or metermen, they all make $62.48 an hour.
Wow.
And overtime is double.
Wow.
Yeah, it's double. And if you work past 10 o'clock at night, your whole next day is double. It's overtime. So, a lot of,
Yeah.
I messed up.
Do you
Yeah,
get like,
but realize, this winter nasty storm.
yeah,
These guys are out there in the
Yeah.
freezing cold. They deserve every bit of it.
absolutely they do. It is
Yeah.
well earned.
Yeah.
So, if you like to be outside, if you like to, be working with your hands, if you're good at math, if you're able to interact and work with customers and have that, sort of feeling behind the mission, right? Because our linemen they're absolutely first responders. When there's a car accident and somebody runs into a pole or a transformer or something, nobody can do anything until our linemen are there. Right?
mhm.
Do people who work for PGE get like discounted on their electric prices, like in their like homes and stuff?
Yeah,
They do?
Did they really?
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, it's not huge, but I'll take anything.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, another interesting thing to think about at PGE is that, we don't hire apprentices externally unless we don't find any talent internally. So our apprentices start in the low 40s per hour. And that's for journeymen, wiremen, and metermen. So if you're interested in lineman work, you start as a pre-apprentice. And that's the only apprenticeship, though it's pre-apprentice, that we do hire externally for. And that is groundwork. So they were talking about kind of the groundwork where you're not climbing the pole and, doing all the cool work. You're helping out below and you're getting the crews what they need and learning as you go along. Journeyman is not only an indicator of an achievement of level that you personally achieve, no matter what it is, but you're also a mentor and you're also a teacher and, you know, you are teaching the next generation. And that's, you know, something that's really important to us. One position that I talk about frequently is an entry into the trades, into PGE, is the storeroom. So every one of our yards has a storeroom, which is like a large warehouse that keeps all of the gear and the tools and everything that our crews need to get out the door. And that, storeroom also starts your seniority date. So the thing to know about represented work is that your seniority date is really important, because if you bid jobs and you're the most senior person, you get the job.
Bid jobs meaning you wanna advance your career.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or move. Maybe you're in a storeroom in Gresham and your family decides to move to Beaverton. Well, nobody wants to drive to Gresham from Beaverton, right? So now you want to bid, and if you're the most senior bidder, then you're awarded the position. I mean, obviously, if you meet the qualifications, but generally, we do. Storeroom positions are very much like warehouses. So there's lots of inventory, making sure ordering is happening and things are put away and everything, and that pay starts at $24.36 an hour. And you get raises for the first 6 months, and then you get raises every year, and I think you top out at just about $38 an hour for storeroom.
And that's something somebody coming out of high school with a diploma or a GED can apply for?
Yeah. I mean, you can apply for that. You can apply for if you know, maybe you have, you grew up on a farm, or you did some work on a farm and you have some experience with some heavy equipment. You could apply for an equipment operator position. You know, if you're interested in pre-apprentice lineman work, you don't have to have your CDL. We take you through CDL school in your first month.
That CDL, normally you have to pay to take a class, don't you?
Yeah, it's expensive.
So that's, yeah, it's
It's like
expensive.
12,000 a
Yeah, that's a
person.
big benefit.
It's a huge benefit. And we have very, very generous benefits. Most of our represented positions, like for example, for healthcare, there's 2 plans you can choose from. One is under $10 a pay period, and one is under $100 a pay period for you and your entire family. So that's a really great benefit. 401k is unbelievably generous. So.
With regards to the CDL, I know we had somebody from Metro West had shared, like, she did not realize that having traffic tickets, violations on her record would impact her ability to actually drive an ambulance.
Yeah.
Are those things that students should be mindful of when they're looking at
Absolutely.
driving records now, like how that can impact you being able to
Absolutely.
get?
Many of our jobs, not just, trades jobs, require driving, and they also require a history of safe driving practices. Because you're driving really expensive vehicles.
So you
Okay.
don't wanna like miss out on a job because too many tickets.
That's important for all trades too, because almost every trade, like our journeymen, your guys' journeymen, linemen, they all drive vehicles. We have work vans, work vehicles that carry the tools and everything that you need to do a job, so they're all very expensive pieces of equipment.
And if you're not insurable, you're not employable.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are some more examples of different job titles. These are sort of the trades or skilled trades, line workers, meter operations, substation operations, generation technicians, that's multiple trades. So we do have generation locations, dams on the rivers. We have, obviously the wind turbines, we have lots of hydro. So lots of different positions there.
I was reading that there is a huge demand for turbine maintenance workers.
Oh, yes,
Like
yes.
crazy demand.
Oh, it's been like that for a really long time. Yeah, yeah.
You could not catch me to go climb up those big
Very
towers.
dangerous.
You have to like to climb.
I like
Long
heights.
ladder.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, you can. And then, so on top of those, you can hit it one more time? Yeah. Oh, not going. Oh, well. Well, we have 189 different job functions on top of those 700 and whatever job titles. And the heart is talent acquisition, which is the best. Sorry, you can't see it. And then here's just an example of a location. So we have an integrated operations center, and this is just an example of all the different roles that we have at one location. You know, it's not just one building and you do one thing, it's many things. Everything from administrative support, we have our aviation team out of the IOC. A lot of people don't know that we have a trading floor. Project management, system architecture, our IT service desk out of there, grid operations. So the IOC is a building that we have in 12th and Sherwood where all of our critical systems are. And so really, we want to keep the power going to you if there is a serious event, earthquake, what have you. It can house people, I think, up to 2 or 3 weeks. Built on springs, pretty cool. Okay, so why PGE? Number one, you can make a difference in your community. That's something that really appeals to people. There's multiple entry points. Our call center is another great place to get started, though if you're in the trades, that probably wouldn't align. Storeroom, internships, pre-apprentice. You are highly compensated with very generous benefits. Specialized training and career development opportunities. We do an incredible amount of development for employees. You know, when you're in apprenticeship at PGE, all of your class time is during your work hours. And we are providing the curricula for that. And of course, you get to help fight climate change, so.
Can you talk about your pre-apprenticeship program?
Sure, so, pre-apprenticeship program, in terms of how long does it take to part out or achieve the journeyman title? For pre-apprentice, you can count on staying in pre-apprentice probably around 2 years, maybe 2.5, depending on how fast you push yourself through the curricula and pass different milestones. And you can absolutely move ahead of other people who are ready to apprentice if you get through things earlier. After you reach a certain milestone and we have room on a crew, you move up into apprenticeship. You have to have 2 linemen to every apprentice. So there can be a backlog in pre-apprentice, which is why we may not hire a pre-apprentice class 1 year like we didn't last year. And then you will be in the apprentice designation for around 3.5 years, and then you card out and you're a journeyman only.
What's the application process like to get into that?
So the application process is long. It takes about 5 months from the day we post the job to the day you start. And that's because we typically are hiring multiple people, so 10 or more. Last year, or the last time we hired 25 people, or 24 people. So we have to move large groups of people through at one time. So we post the job for about a month. We collect applications. You have to have your math scores, your picture of your diploma, or something notating that you graduated from high school or received your GED, and your resume. Your resume is then reviewed by our pre-apprentice committee, and then they decide who will be moving forward. And then if you're selected, then you have to take the NJATC aptitude test, which is both reading comprehension and math. And we also do, proctor that test, so you can take it on site at our training facility in Sherwood. And then if you pass that, then you automatically move to the yard assessment, and the yard assessment is the hardest part of it. It's a 2-day exercise where you have 5 different stations to go around. I have video of that, but unfortunately it's too big to send to you. But it's really cool. You have a climbing station, you have a digging station, you have a tool station where you're putting together a cross arm, which if you look on a pole, you'll see the arms where the holds all the equipment, transformers and stuff. Just some other material handling and things like that. And then if you pass that, you have a sit-down interview, and then you select from there, and then that's it. Then you go through a background check, and we do test for marijuana. We are a highly federally regulated organization, and even though it's legal in Oregon, it is not federally legal. So that is tested.
How often do you drug test? Aside from like your initial application, is a regular drug test schedule, or?
That's a good question. I don't know of a drug test schedule. I think it's something that is monitored, absolutely. But just like your driving record, we'll monitor your driving record. I don't know what that cadence is. Any questions? No?
How easy is it to move from within positions there? So if I start off as a storeroom and then working in the storeroom, and then somebody wants to go into the apprenticeship program, can they do that? Is there good
Yeah, so
flow around that talent?
So since I've been hiring for the trades, we typically been hiring 2 wire apprentices and 2 meter apprentices every year. And you bid. So you have to supply again your math scores, your resume. And then it goes before the apprenticeship committee, which is different from the pre-apprentice committee. And they make selections. You do a ride along for a couple of weeks, and then then you're an apprentice.
I just shared you the Zoom link if you want to join and share your screen. You can show those videos.
Oh, okay. It's actually pretty cool if you want to see it. Oh, you know what? What's your Wi-Fi?
Just in the cabinet, there was a thing that like.
We have it out. Let me go find out for you. Need sugar? I need you to sugar, but I can't give you the Wi-Fi password. Let me find it out for you.
Which one is it? Is it HCC?
Yes.
Hotspot or Tech Center?
I'm on the hotspot one. We typically have it. Your chamber.
It got moved into the other room.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's see if this works.
$792 jobs within PG, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
For different pathways, areas.
Yeah, we averaged, around, I think like 47% internal moves. So there's a lot of support, for employees, to move around.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Those are important things to look at when you're
yeah,
starting
yeah.
your career, like how can you continue to advance?
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, I made you co-host, so it should let you share your screen. How do you want for this one? So that you see what I'm doing.
Ask them if they can online if they can hear. Start seeing them.
Just waiting for this to catch up. Okay.
And tree trimmers, don't you guys have tree trimmers? Like,
We do have vegetation specialists, yes. We also hire contract crews.
I know we lost in the ice storm that we had. PGE had to wait for was it a splend?
That's,
Yeah,
or.
had to wait for
Splund, yeah.
a splend to come out and, cause a tree had fallen on the lines and they had to, like, PG cut the power, but then they had to wait for the tree trimmers so that they could do the work. Not,
Safely.
yeah,
Hmm.
tree specialists, not tree trimmers,
Tree
tree specialists.
So this isn't catching up with me.
What was that?
It's not catching up with me. So I'm,
Saw your mouse move around.
yeah.
So, well,
Oh, there we go.
while Courtney's getting that, I have a question about, tools. Do you have to provide your own tools or do you find companies will provide them for you? How does,
Depending on the company you work for, so pretty much industry standard for non-union side is you provide your own hand tools. So when we get a new apprentice, a first year apprentice, the JTC, which is the non-union school, provides you a list of hand tools. But we also do that, so it's, strippers, side cutters, screwdriver, hammer. It's a pretty small list. Tool belt, and then, our company standard is any corded tools we provide on the vans. So you don't need to have your own drill, you don't need to have your own bandsaw. Benders, all that stuff is all stocked on the van that's company provided. So just your hand tools, so it's like
A meter.
yeah, it's like $400 or $500 worth of tools, I would say. And we have a Platt offers apprentice discounts on tools as well to kind of help out. And sometimes companies will have like a starter kit or something. So there's lots of different, that shouldn't be a reason that you don't start down the path. There's lots of ways to work around that, but that is kind of the expectation is you have your own hand tools.
what about with you guys, Stephanie?
Yeah, most people, they usually have like basic tools, meter, scissors. We do have we have 2 company kits at the house. Where we give them to our helpers if they're just starting out, and then, we just say like, after like your first paycheck, you should get your own tools. And after 3 months, if there's any tools that you wanna, like, we'll buy it and then we'll just take it out of your check and pay them, so you guys wanna do that.
We ready?
You should be good. I'm gonna mute.
It's not working, but, this originally was the field that journeyman linemen trained in, but there was no building. They literally were training under a tent. And I mean, there was a building out there, but it wasn't like any, couldn't hold people. So this building was built specifically to train our journeyman linemen.
Is there no sound?
There, I don't know how to get sound in place, but. Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
So every day, we begin with a safety lecture, and all of our crews, before they go on any job, have to do what's called, a tailboard. And a tailboard gives details about the job that you're going to do, talks about the potential hazards. During the tailboard, you assign roles if there's an emergency, so you have a volunteer to call 911. What county are you in? What street are you on? You know, like you call it all these different facts so you know where you're at. Who's going to wave in the ambulance, who's going to provide CPR. So that's all decided before you start, and we do that during our pre-apprentice fully art assessment every day as well. So that they have, that they're safe. And, this is our suspended ladder climb as part of one of the assessments. If I can get this to play. Oh my goodness.
Wasn't there I thought I had read that in the high winds, there's a, once wind speeds are over a certain, once winds are over a certain speed, PGE, you guys won't send the buckets up.
Oh, probably.
Yeah. That was,
Safety's always first, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, you need you need to, and your fellow coworkers need to go home the way you came to work.
that was something that we, like, when we were reading about how impacting, how fast power was able to get restored because the wind speeds were so high that workers weren't able to be out there.
Well, and during COVID, there was more bucket work because they couldn't be on 2 linemen on 1 pole because you're not 6 feet apart. So there might be, yeah. Another example of some of the ladder climbs. When you go up and you go down, you go up and you go down. It's a really exhausting day.
During your training, I see you're harnessed up,
Absolutely,
but in real life, they're gonna be climbing a ladder without a harness and a cable.
absolutely there, yeah. But the point about this exercise is that you're comfortable climbing, that you're comfortable with heights, that you're able to, you know, get up there.
How many of you guys like heights?
Nobody? Well, wait till you see this one.
Yeah.
These are all assessments within the pre-apprentice, so this is what they would do if they were in that. The stuff.
Yeah, we didn't do this one last year. So
Okay.
this is a free climb. So there is no harness, or maybe he does have a harness. But there was no, we didn't do this one. We only did the first 2.
Do they wear the boot spikes and climb poles too in the training?
In training, yes, absolutely. In the assessment, no, they don't do any pole climbing.
That's a unique process on how you position yourself with your legs.
Oh, yeah.
By climbing the pole.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Oh, and look at that pole move. Mm-mm,
Yeah,
nope,
they move.
nope, nope.
This is why people are just made to do different things.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I should never be in a career that requires, you know, a lot of math. I mean,
That's
I
what I
need,
was saying, last night, math.
I need all my fingers and toes when I do math, so. Yeah. So those are some examples of some
That
climbing.
is so high.
Yeah, that's really high.
Boy.
And then we have, our, vault trenching splicing. Now you, will dig holes. And, sometimes you're on property. And when you're on property, people like to have their grass put back the way it was. So that's why this is important. So these are just some pictures of people, some of our pre-apprentice candidates. And then there's a single and double cross arm build. And this is sort of like the tools section. And this is what a cross arm is. And so we give you this SketchUp and then you build it. And we give you everything you need to build that.
So do linemen, operate heights one, that's where there's a lot of emphasis on pole climbing.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so, the journeyman linemen are the only people that can actually touch the equipment. So they have to climb up to do it sometimes. But we also have, like, if you look downtown, most of the power is underground. Right? You don't go downtown and see poles everywhere. So underneath Portland, we have linemen down there working and splicing cable and doing the work down there. Yeah, then we have the transfer materials. So this person here with the number 1 on is pulling up equipment up to, you know, the crew. And then you're carrying 50 pounds back and forth. So anyway, that's a little bit about the pre-apprentice Polyart assessment. Any questions about that? I know none of you like heights, so I'm gonna assume I'm assuming none of you are gonna apply for a pre-apprentice next year, this year, whenever we do it next.
He didn't used to like heights either, but he'll climb a ladder.
Yeah. But not those heights.
Not those heights.
Would not wanna be I would not want to be a lineman.
It might just be one of those things that you kind of have to get used to.
You know, you're right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of heights before I joined the trades. I'd also never used any tools in my life before I joined the trades.
Mhm.
And I've grown accustomed to both of those things.
Pretty fast too.
Yeah.
And we provide all of your tools and your gear. You get allowances for clothes and you get a boot allowance and all that fun stuff. Any other questions?
Anything from the online? What do you see happening for bringing in, like, or allowing the spaces for more women in the trades? Because we know that, like, that has kind of been historically more heavily male dominated, and so providing as business owners, providing the space for women to come in and really creating those opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's really a work in progress and it's gonna take the community to do it. You know, there's like the Oregon tradeswomen who provide specifically for women education around the trades. And I think it's just a shift in our culture and making people feel more welcome, I think. I know there's been talk about having man in the titles, so I don't know how much that affects things. But I just think through education and just letting women know that they can do these jobs, that we want them to, they're welcome. These are family wage jobs, they can provide for their families, excellent benefits, they can take care of themselves and their families with these jobs.
Yeah, there's nothing restricting women, men, anyone from doing these jobs. I think like education,
Yeah.
outreach, like this kind of thing is important to let people know, you know, no matter where they are in life, that these options are out there and they're needed. I know like the JATC has a big push for minority and female applicants. So, I mean, if you check either of those boxes, really, you're kind of a shoe-in because they're really trying to emphasize getting more minorities and women in the trades specifically. And then at the other end of things, with a lot of these government jobs, there's a mandate on, and not just government jobs, but a lot of public works type stuff. There's a mandate for certain number of represented groups within projects. So when we go and bid on a project, we usually have a general contractor that has reached out to us and said, hey, we're going after this job at the Washington County Chamber of Commerce. And so we need an electrician, we need a plumber, we need HVAC, we need all these things. They reach out to subcontractors, which is us. And so Washington County Chamber may say, hey, for this project, we need 30% of the workforce to be minority or female. And so then the general contractor will pass that down. And so, you know, customers are driving that as well as the trades themselves. And so you have to try and meet those needs. And really, we just see a lack. I don't know if it's a lack of interest, but there's just not a lot, at least in the electrical trade, there's not a lot of females in particular. And they're very welcome. You know, we need everyone. It takes all kinds to do this work. And so, you know, I think outreach is really important to let people know that these jobs are available and inform them on what we do, you know, because there's a big mystery about a lot of these jobs because you've never done them before. You know, I can say we wire lights, but you don't know what that really means until you actually do it. And so I think that kind of stuff is really going to help push more equity in the trades.
And there's support and there's education, you know.
And you all being in high school still, young, you don't have a whole lot of life experience yet. So try to give you that information.
And going back to like skill sets, I would imagine having some bilingual is helpful.
Oh, yeah, it's a great call. Yeah.
The more assets you can bring to the table as an individual, at the end of the day, the more employable you are, you know? So if you're in an industry or field where you deal with people, if you deal with customers, a variety of people, you know, being able to communicate with them is very important, you know, almost as important as being reliable, you know? So anything you can do to kind of, you know,
Prep and better yourself.
yeah, make yourself more valuable no matter what field you go down, whether that's, you know, speaking multiple languages, having a certification, doing a PCC class that gives you some education and insight, doing a job shadow that just lets you see this, oh, this is what they mean when they say, you know, stocking a warehouse. You know, all those things will be greatly beneficial to you no matter what avenue you decide to pursue.